Okay, welcome to the Real Estate Rabbit Hole. My name is Dave Meurer, and I'm always going to be doing this podcast with a dear friend who's been in the real estate industry for over 20 years, Michael McGuire, who's a local realtor, local to the state of Maryland. And for those of you listening all over the world, you can still contact him for information about buying real estate. Mike, say hello to the group, and then we'll get going with our first episode of Real Estate Rabbit Hole.
Michael McGuire, been a real estate agent for 20 plus years. Been a friend with Dave for longer than that. And yes, we are going to co-host this Real Estate Rabbit Hole together. We've actually probably been doing that for 20 years, but we've never taken it to the public. So we're taking it public now.
Yeah, and we certainly hope the public enjoys this. Between the two of us, I'm going to add my number in terms of my years in looking at mortgages, and it's only been 38. So between the two of us, I'm going to estimate we are just under 60 years of experience. So hopefully that experience will be insightful to those who want to learn something about purchasing real estate and what you may encounter. And someone who's brand new to this, not only new to podcasting, but new to purchasing real estate. If we wanted to talk, Mike, here in our first episode about what do you do? You know, if you're a potential buyer, whether it be really a first-time buyer or maybe a move-up buyer, what do you recommend as kind of first steps to the process?
Well, the interesting thing I think is that when I bought my first house, it just so happened that my future father-in-law was a real estate agent. And so buying a house seemed pretty easy and it seemed like a logical thing. Now, had my future father-in-law not been a real estate agent, I'm not sure I would have known what to do or, maybe how to go about buying a house. So obviously if you know a real estate agent or the first step, I think, and these go hand in hand, but you need to find a real estate agent and you need to find a lender who you're going to work with, because those two people are going to be the most important pieces of the puzzle right off the bat.
What do you think from the standpoint of maybe what would be your very first step? Do you recommend one or the other, lender or real estate agent, or is it more about who you may know and trust as to taking that first step? What would you say?
Yeah, I think obviously, again, depending if you're a lender or a real estate agent, you might argue who you should contact first. But I think the reality is that one or the other is fine. I don't really necessarily say that you need to meet one or the other first. Maybe if you've had a friend who used an agent recently, you could talk to them. Or if you had a friend who bought a house recently, you might ask them what their lender was like. And I wouldn't necessarily, I think it's great when you get a referral from a friend, but I also think that those should just be some opening questions. Again, whether it's a real estate agent or a lender, you can talk to those professionals and maybe they can also guide you. So a real estate agent can help you find a lender, and a lender can also help you find a real estate agent. And again, I don't know that it's necessarily important to find either of them first, but it's more about figuring that out. A lot of people that I meet, and these are not necessarily people that I haven't talked to them first, but I meet a lot of people who it seems like they tend to think, well, I'm going to buy a house, so maybe I'll go to an open house. And it is a way to start meeting agents and to start, figuring out, do I like this agent? Do I not like this agent? Do I think they're honest or not? Do I think they're trustworthy or not? Do I think I'll get along with them or not? Because sometimes the process can take a while. So you don't necessarily want to walk into an open house, meet someone and think, boy, what a jerk. I can't wait to work with him or her. So, they make agents of all shapes, sizes, and everything else. And so you want to get someone that you're comfortable with, I think, even on a personal level first. And again, lots of people start by going to open houses just to meet some people. But after you do that, you may want to, again, talk to a friend or two or a family member who might have a recommendation for you as well.
You know, the guy with the lender hat on would say that it's critical before you go out kicking tires at homes around town to really, truly know not only what your price range is, but what your comfort zone is as far as what your monthly carrying costs will be for a specific price range. Sometimes folks, I find, say that we're comfortable with a payment of X, and I as a lender would say, well, that's about $1,000 more than you qualify for. So we have to start at a lower level, and I have to explain things in a different way to say, hey, you have, maybe champagne taste in a beer pocketbook. Others tell me, Dave, I don't want to go over this payment, and based on the price range that they want to look at, there's no way, based on their asset base, that they can get down to a loan amount to be at that payment level. So it really, there's a myriad of factors that say to me as a lender, you really need to have your ducks in a row when you're walking into homes priced at a certain level. And usually that means have some sense of what your price range is. And that's not to say that I don't advise going out to look, but I think being in the market, and Mike, you can relate to this. I often talk to people about if you're going to purchase a car, and people fish around the internet and look for available product and all the rest and all the things that they do with the internet, but they're really not in the market until they sit in a vehicle, have the new car smell experience, as we call it, and then drive around. And the same, I think, applies with houses. Once you get out of a vehicle, step on the curb, go through a front door, now you're in the market. Because you're already beginning to compare what you love with maybe what that house does have or doesn't have. But until then, you're what we call a tire kicker. And you're not really in the market. You're not committed. So from my perspective, as a lender, when people call us and ask us to give them a sense of what they can truly afford, and they give us pushback on sending documents, then they're not really in the market. They're not serious about buying a house. Because we're going to need, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, we're going to need to know income, assets, and where their credit is. Those three things. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But talk about, you mentioned interviewing, and I love that. Setting up times when you might want to talk to one or two or three people just to see who you get along with.
Well, and again, I spoke briefly about, stepping inside of an open house. That is not what you're talking about when you say stepping across the curb and into the front door. Because when you walk into an open house, the agent who's holding the open house works for the seller. They don't work for you. They're there to serve the interest of the seller, and they might be nice and they have to answer your questions honestly and that sort of thing. But really, it starts when you have met a few agents and you've asked them some questions. I, for one, have a like a buyer's program that I often sit down in my office with prospective buyers. They haven't signed anything yet. We haven't made any formal agreement, but they sit down with me and I sort of walk them through the entire process. It answers, if not all their questions, most of their questions that they had even coming in. It might raise a few extra questions that they didn't even know they had. But it allows me to walk all the way through it and allows me to explain somewhat the way I handle certain situations, why I do things the way that I do them, with respect to, how we might write an offer, or with respect to how we look at a house. And it allows someone to get comfortable with me or not. And if they're not comfortable with me, then by all means, they will take some valuable information from that particular hour or hour and a half we spend together. But by all means, if they think they're not interested in working with me, then they should keep looking for somebody else. Again, they make agents of all shapes, sizes, and everything else. But you need to ultimately align yourself with a professional who you trust, who has been in the business, who you feel like they're going to give you the time that you need. They're going to be available when you need them. They have the experience, but also the, just the thought of, if something goes sideways, how are they going to look out for your interest? All agents will tell you, hey, I'm looking out for my client's interest first. But there's telltale signs when you know for sure that is actually happening. So again, I don't think looking at an open house makes you, particularly a buyer, but I think it's when you align yourself again with professionals, real estate agent, and then also a lender, the way Dave said, like at that point when you're going to start working with an agent to go view homes, you want to know, what do I qualify for? But also what am I comfortable with? Because I know Dave sort of said it the other way around, where he said, maybe you think you can afford X and really you can only afford less than X. Oftentimes people can afford more than what they are comfortable with. And you need someone like Dave who's going to say, I understand. So if you want your payment to be in this category, then this is the price range you need to look in. You could afford more, but you really need to look in this price range. And it saves you and your agent, time and effort if you're looking at the houses that meet your primary, your payment need that you're looking for. So it does take some questions and answers. It does take some, obviously, sharing some documentation and that sort of thing. But you're playing. You're not really serious about trying to accomplish what you want to accomplish.
Yeah, and I think we talk a lot about. We ask the question: good lenders, people that have been in the industry, have some experience, and ask in the right ways about a comfort zone of a payment. Many times, a consumer will give us a number, and they do qualify for a good bit more than that payment. And that's where our financial planning comes into play. Can we talk about removal of debts before you buy this house? Can we talk about removal of debts as you're buying the house? Meaning, if somebody says to me, Dave, I don't know, I'm just throwing out a number. If somebody says to me, Dave, I don't want to be over $2,200 a month no matter what, and I see a $400 car payment on the credit report that's got $5,000 left on it, I might say to them, in the price range you're telling me you want to be in, your payment's going to be $2,700. But how about putting a little bit less down, pay the car off? So it's not the end of the world, and there's a myth about down payment percentages that very much still exist amongst people that have never bought a home before. Up to 25% of consumers, even today, who don't own a home, think that they need to put 20% down of a sale price to buy a home. And it's just not the case. And frankly, it's not even close to the case. And so we begin to talk about, how about less down on the house, shed the debts. And now when you move into this home, you're going to have a mortgage payment, you're going to have other expenses that the home generates, but you won't feel like, oh my gosh, I'm in a mortgage payment I can't afford, when you don't have that $500 auto payment going out the door because it's gone. So we talk about that a lot. and I sit down and we make a plan. So it's a lot more than, and if you notice, there's one four-letter word I haven't mentioned here about that plan. It begins with an R, ends with an E, and has an A and a T in the middle of it. The fact is that there is so much more to getting a mortgage than what that four-letter word is going to be. You've got to set it up the way that is best for you and your family. And we talk about the planning. We absolutely actively talk about, how old are your children? Do you have any leaving for college the next couple years? What's the plan there? And so forth and so on. If they're first-time buyers, how long do you want to be there? It's a major question to ask. So these are all parts of what we do, and I think you need to be with experienced people to get the best, to have the best experience, as Mike just mentioned.
One thing, and this might sound so basic that it's not fit for podcast, but the one thing I would tell anybody who's thinking of buying their first house or their second house or their seventh house is that you can't save too much money. Like, any money that you can save can help either A, with the down payment. It can help with, bridging the gap. If you're trying to sell a house and buy another house, it can help bridge the gap. Again, initially when you're going for your first house, like, any savings that you can get and put away, beyond especially what you might need as a down payment or what you might need for closing costs, you never know. You might need some new appliances. You never know. When you move in, something can go wrong with the house early on. You need to be prepared for those things. So, in a backward sort of way, you can't save too much money before you buy a house.
And part of that might be, and I'm trying to tell you to pay off debts and save money, and it doesn't seem to add up. 1 and 1 equals 2 there. But oftentimes when people are looking at their carrying cost, their only focus is where that payment's going to come in instead of looking at their total financial plan. And their plan can be amiss if they, unload the debts that they're, stop carrying the credit card debt. That's the other thing. And we can get on to, my goodness, we could take 3 podcasts on that, Mike. The number of folks we see that carry 5 and 8 and 10 grand, 15 grand balances on credit cards.
When I talk about like saving money, it might be because if your advice when they come to you to sort of plan more specifically for what the next steps are, if it is to pay off a credit card or pay off a car loan, well, if they have some money saved, that's actually an option. When you don't have a little bit extra saved, it's not an option. So you want to give yourself as many options as you can financially. And again, I know in today's world, it's not easy to save money. You do need to make sacrifices sometimes, but any money that you can save is going to help you when it comes time to being able to buy that house.
And there's a lot of press about down payment assistance programs. And they are definitely available. But the but is, and there's always a but, nothing is free in life. And they come with hitches and hooks, meaning you most likely, at the point where you would refinance or sell the home, have to pay the money back. So occasionally there'll be grant money, as we call it, and that's a pure gift from whatever entity is providing it. But many times it's a loan. And so it's critical to know the difference in what you're looking at when you go to buy the house. And I think there's a lot of misunderstandings around down payment assistance, and what would really counter that is exactly what you're saying, Mike, and that is, and I know it's a random thought, but save money. If you save your own funds, you're in full control of what you then can do in terms of a house and what your financial future is going to look like. So I'm just a believer in that. And I know I might sound like a few of these other characters out in the world when it comes to debt. Not a believer in it, hate it, want it shed as early in life as I can make it, as I can have it. I love being invited to mortgage burning parties. I've told my clients that. But first, get rid of everything else. The mortgage should be the last thing, because fortunately we still have some tax ramifications that are positive for mortgage debt that we don't have with any other type of debt. So if you're going to have any, have it on the real estate. And again, I'm not just saying that because I'm in the industry, but getting rid of every other kind of debt will make life a lot simpler and a lot less complex as you're going out there to look. But I think, go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to say that, we're sort of talking about, you need to meet this person, you need to talk to that professional, you need to save money. These are things that are hard. But the fact of the matter is that, and I truly believe that buying a house is still one of the best ways for people to ultimately gain wealth over time. And I can't always predict whether the market will increase or decrease. And if you think buying a house is going to make you rich, it's not. But I do know that no matter what the value of the house is that if you are able to buy a house and you make every payment, that at the end of your mortgage, you're going to own something that does have some value, and you would own it free and clear. Again, if you make every mortgage payment, you'll free and clear of except for taxes and insurance.
That's right. But we're never in first lien position. Government is.
It is a way to again, to ultimately have an asset that you're able to pay off over time, and all that time, it's also a roof over your head and stability and that sort of thing. And so again, during the course of that time, you might decide, I want a bigger house, I want a smaller house, whatever it is. You may never pay off that 30-year mortgage, but no matter what the market does, if you're in a house and you like it and it offers you a place to live, and again, over the course of whether you take a 15-year mortgage, 20, 30, whatever it is, over the course of that time, you make every payment, you're going to have an asset at the end that is valuable. So it could be worth more, could be worth less. Again, you never know what the future holds. But over the course of time, again, if it's any kind of longer period of time, typically real estate goes up over time. And so, purchasing something today, if you look back, most likely 20, 30, 40 years from now, you're going to say, wow, look how cheap that was. At least that's what people talk about now, who, to those of us who bought something in 2000, or, for heaven's sake, if you bought something in 1982, they wonder how where you got all that money or whatever, but, or how you bought that thing so cheap. Of course, at that point you were making a lot less money and that sort of thing. But again, it is an asset that you can pay off over time, still live in it. And so I think in many ways it's very valuable, especially as a way to increase your personal or family wealth.
As we roll to our final minutes in the first podcast here, Mike, I want to ask the question because I know it comes up a lot. Here we are in 2025. We're going to be talking about current events and current market movements and things across the country too as we get further into these podcasts. But I wanted to finish our first one with how you handle the guy who says to you, because I get the question sometimes, or the pushback, and that is they make one of two statements. I'm going to wait to buy until pricing eases, or they say I'm going to wait to buy until rates come down. What do you? Because the first one, it's kind of laughable in the Mid-Atlantic, because if you'd waited if you made that statement I think it was, I saw a statistic on this a year ago. If somebody said in 1971 that they were going to wait to buy until rates came down, they would have waited until 1993 to buy a home. Because they didn't, for 22 years, ever come down to the level they were in 71 until 93. So what do you say to those experts or people that say they really are active, they want to buy, and we're really active, but we're going to wait till pricing gets a little easier? What do you say to them?
Well, I mean, obviously, if any one of us could predict the future, we'd be geniuses in the stock market, the real estate market.
Right.
We all would have bought houses in 1971, regardless of the interest rate. We would know whether the Orioles are going to win tonight or not.
Well, they won they lost last night, so maybe tonight. Yeah, it's night tonight with that bunch.
But you can't. None of us can predict the future, and I'm a believer in thinking that you need to make the best decision for your family based on the information at hand. So you can't. Again, if you decide to wait things out, that might turn out. You might turn out to look like a genius, but you might also turn out to, to pay more. People that were in 2000 and in 2020 and 2021, people who said, well, the market's kind of going crazy, maybe I'm going to wait. Well, in 22, the market was higher. In 23, it was higher. Like, it's gone up every year since. And in 2021 and 2022, the rates were probably lower. They finally started to go up, and then, but that didn't even ease the pricing of the houses themselves. So again, it's very difficult to predict. If all of us knew that 6 months from now, rates were going to be a lot lower, all right, then I guess we could all just go on vacation for 6 months. But the fact of the matter is that you cannot predict what's going to happen. And you need, again, to make the best decision based on, your family, what your needs are. And, the reality is that if you get into something now and the rates come down, then you might be able to still improve your position on a monthly basis by refinancing 6 months, a year from now, whatever it is. But again, you got to make the best decision based on your current needs.
Yeah, and I think in this region, meaning we're focused mostly on the Mid-Atlantic, because we're in Maryland, but we know what real estate values have done, certainly over the last quarter of a century or more. And people who have waited, as a general comment, to purchase, when they say, I'm going to wait. Now, I'm specifically referring to people who can move at that point or can buy. I'm not talking about ones that need to clean up their credit or save more money or any of that. I'm talking about folks who are ready, willing, and able to buy. The ones that have said, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait a year. I'm going to wait 2 years. I'm going to wait 3 years. They end up every year. If we go back a quarter of a century at least, they paid more. It's ended up costing them more money. So I'm a guy that says, you know what? I think we need to. I think we need to just reinforce that in the industry. I know we do, but I know it comes off sometimes as, well, you guys are just inside the industry and you're selling hard. It's more than that. We're really trying to save people money. And when you sell a property to somebody who makes that decision and runs with it, most of them, I venture to say all of them, have come back to you a year later or 2 years later and said, Mike, glad we did what we did. Right? I mean, yeah.
And the one of the most, I think, positive, poignant things that I say even if I refer business to Dave, is that Dave has been in this business a long time. He's not, he doesn't just need this year one mortgage to make his mortgage payment. He's in it for the long haul. If there's reasons that you need to do some things and you need to wait 6 months, he's going to tell you that. He's not going to just try to fit you into a product that's that's not for you. And I'm the same way. I mean, we work together that way in that, like, we're not out there trying to put someone into a position that hurts them. So if there's things you can do to make it better, we're going to recommend those things. At the same time, again, just trying to give you, the client, the information so that they can make the best decision for their family. We're not the ones who are going to live in the house. It's not up to us. The decisions are yours. I'm not here to tell you exactly what to do, but I'm here to tell you that these are your options. I think that this is a good thing. I think this is, if you're pushing it on the price or something, I'm going to try to tell you that too. But again, it's someone who's there to look out for your interest and to try to help you make the best decision for you and your family. We need certain information to do that. I want a certain level of trust, but also I'm here to explain things as many times as I need to so that you understand them. I'll tell a quick story, Dave.
Go ahead, buddy. We're coming up on our time, and I want to hear it, really.
But when I was out looking for my first house, I'm with my future father-in-law. There were things that he would say, certain terms, certain things, and I'm thinking, I guess I'm supposed to know what that is, but I was also afraid to ask. To this day, when I work, especially with first-time buyers, I think I know that look of someone they think they might know what I mean, but they're not sure, or they think they might know, like, I'm supposed to know that, but I don't. I know that look I see. I stop. I say, are you questioning this, or do you have a question, or can I help to explain this even more? Like, I want people to obviously trust me as their agent, but I also want to make sure that they fully understand what it is that they're doing. And I think that I do a good job of that. And I think Dave does as well. From a lending standpoint, the same thing. He's not just trying to breeze over. He's not just trying to get somebody to sign the paperwork just to sign it, to move on to the next one. He's willing to spend extra time to explain things so that people understand what they're doing.
Well, Mike, this has been a good, good first run.
And as we leave, I'm just going to say, again, my name's Michael McGuire. I'm with Remax Advantage, also part of Team Kinnear. And my cell number is 410-227-2483. If anyone has questions or would like to contact me, that's the best way. So, Dave, back to you.
Michael, thank you. It's been fantastic, and we'll be chatting next week. Dave Meurer, Prime Lending, 410-241-7908. We'll talk to you next week.
Great. Thank you.